Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope y'all are having a lovely day, and welcome to the definitive CachyOS guide that, you'll probably need. Now, I consider myself to be an enthusiast in the PC gaming market space or environment, and I feel like there really aren't any guides that are tailored to that kind of person, right? Just, what works with the best hardware in terms of Linux. And, as I said, I don't think there are a lot of guides out there, especially that, explain what everything is during the CachyOS install. So with that being said, like, what exactly is CachyOS, right? What is the hype all about? To explain it, as properly as I can, without getting too in-depth, it's essentially a highly optimized operating system for intensive tasks and applications. This obviously includes things like gaming, video editing, and it can also be used for daily driving or even school-related stuff with some heavy adjustments, right? Now, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't think Linux is the operating system that can completely replace Windows, not yet at least, because Linux is still a growing operating system, right? This means there will absolutely be features and certain applications that you will have to give up. And so, just a fair warning, it's not all sunshine and rainbows at the end of the road. But it is still worth trying out, mainly because it provides a lot of privacy. It keeps you away from the prying eyes of Windows and Microsoft with all their garbage AI stuff that they're trying to push down your throat, right? Now, let's actually go into the optimizations. At the core of Cachy's kernel, it uses advanced schedulers for faster responsiveness. This includes EEVDF, BOR, BMQ. I won't get too deep into that, but that's exactly what CachyOS uses. It's got other things such as low latency patches. It also has ZRAM and tuned memory settings for better multitasking and less lag under load. It also has something called Proton CachyOS. Now, this is specific for gamers out there, or anyone that uses Proton for other applications as well. Proton is a translation layer, so it translates, a .exe file, right, or an application, I should say, into something that Linux will understand. And it's lightweight. It has the latest patches when it comes to the CachyOS version of Proton. Now, the last thing I want to highlight here is something called ANSI-CPP. Now, it's a daemon that essentially prioritizes games or other high-end resource-intensive applications for better FPS, better usability, what have you. Now, this isn't everything that CachyOS provides you, right? It also provides other things like stable packages that you can use, so whenever you update your system, hopefully everything doesn't just break or crash, whatever it is. However, with this being said, that should hopefully paint a good picture for you as to what CachyOS is, why it's, hyped up all of a sudden. And so let's actually hop into Windows and begin by creating a bootable media by using Rufus. So in order to actually boot into CachyOS, the first step we're going to need to take is create a bootable USB, right? So I'm over here on CachyOS, their website. As you can see, the ISO just finished downloading, but in order to download that, you go over to the download button, desktop edition, and then on this drop down here, click on direct, and then it'll start the download here. I already have it installed. And then the next thing you're going to need is Rufus, right? Now, before I actually talk about Rufus here, sorry for the flashbang, but I have this verbatim USB here, just a generic USB, right? 8 gigs is all you really need. I have the 8 gig here. I've plugged it in. It's all ready to go. But the next piece of software that you're going to need is Rufus. Now, Rufus is absolutely great. Create bootable USB drives the easy way, and it is quite easy. Some people do recommend Balena Etcher. I don't, because honestly, it is not reliable whatsoever. I've had so many issues with it. Sometimes it just bricks my USBs. I don't think it's a user error because, I've done this for work and whatnot, so I just recommend going with Rufus, specifically the portable version. You don't actually have to install it onto Windows if you don't want to, right? Now, I do have Rufus up and running here, so select your USB device first of all, right? I've selected it there. Select your boot selection or the ISO file that you just downloaded, right? So there it is. Hit open, and then the rest should all be configured on its own, right? So just hit start. For this, just hit OK. All warning, the device will be destroyed. Hit OK, and it will start. Now, there's a little timer here. From my experience, it's taken about like 5 minutes. So, you know, just use your computer normally in that time or whatever. And once it's done, it's going to be like this bar is going to be completely green or grayed out, whatever, and it'll just say ready, right? So that's how you know it's done. And yeah, from then on, you can just eject your USB. So if you go here, right, you have got the store and go, just hit the eject button right there, and you should be good to go. But obviously wait for this to completely finish, then hit the eject button. For that, we're going to boot into our BIOS, and we are going to select this USB device to boot into. So ladies and gentlemen, we are one step closer to getting on CachyOS and actually installing it. But at this point of the video, in order to actually boot into the live USB that you just created with me on Windows, you'll need to first find out your BIOS hotkey for your particular motherboard. To do this, search up your motherboard company, right? Or ChatGPT it, whatever you want. So for example, my motherboard is a Gigabyte motherboard, and I have the option to spam the delete key when the computer is actually starting up to enter the BIOS. Now, when you're in your BIOS, it's important to set the following settings. So use UEFI mode, turn off any legacy boot or CSM option, turn off secure boot, turn on USB boot, and turn off fast boot. These settings should honestly be easy to find. Just Google them. They're quite common settings that, you know, are either switched on or off whenever installing an operating system, even Windows sometimes. And because there are many different motherboards, you know, and they've got different naming schemes, I can't obviously show every single motherboard here, but I do own a Gigabyte motherboard, and if you do too, I can confidently say delete is the key to get into BIOS. Now, after these settings are all set, just make sure to reboot your system. This can usually be done just within the BIOS itself. You don't need to go ahead and, you know, hold down the power button on your computer or anything like that. But after, you know, it's in the rebooting phase, make sure to hit your boot menu hotkey. Now, this is different from the BIOS hotkey. It just is going to pop up, you know, before loading into or booting into any storage device. It's going to ask you, okay, which storage device do you want to boot into? And obviously you should select your USB that you just created. On Gigabyte, it's F12. Now, I did go ahead and I did compile just for the big four motherboard companies that I could think of: ASUS, Gigabyte, and ASRock. I'll put them on screen here. For ASUS, the boot menu is F8. The UEFI or BIOS setup is delete or F12. I guess that depends on which motherboard you have. For MSI, the boot menu is F11. The BIOS is delete. For Gigabyte, the boot menu, as I said, is F12. And the BIOS is the delete button. And lastly, ASRock, the boot menu is F11 and the BIOS is F2. So with this in mind, let's hop into a live CachyOS install. So when you boot onto your USB device that you've created with Rufus, you're going to get something that looks like this. Now, keep in mind, I am using a virtual machine, so things might not look the same compared to what you guys are looking over there. Right, it depends, you know, on the motherboard as well and whatnot, resolution, blah blah blah. But this is, you know, where you'll land. Now, to move up and down, you're going to use your arrow keys, right? We can honestly ignore everything, just the first one. Just hit enter, and it should load into a live environment. CachyOS, it just said welcome CachyOS over there. Just give it a few seconds. Now it will say failed to start, blah blah blah. Wait until kernel time synchronous. There will be a few failures here and there, right? Just ignore it, right? You haven't fully installed CachyOS yet, so you will see things like that here and there. It's nothing to worry about. What matters is that the final installation is, running smoothly and works fine. This is what the installer is going to look like, right? The first thing that's going to pop up is hello CachyOS. It's a little application they have in here that's going to essentially help you install the operating system, right? So the main thing that we're going to be focusing on is the launch installer button here. Now, before I do click on this, you've got documentation here, right? So the README, if you want to go through that, release info, right? All of this has really important stuff in them. The wiki especially, right? Now, I'm going to go into the wiki probably in other videos, right? If it pertains to that video. But you've got support here, forums, they've got great forums. Overall, just a great community. The software that they support now, the project stuff here, if you want to donate, look at, development behind the scenes, getting involved, blah, blah, blah. That's everything. You do that on your own time, but let's click on the launch installer option really quickly. Give it a second. Now choose bootloader, right? That's the first thing you're gonna do. I use Grub. You should probably use Grub as well. Now, what exactly is a bootloader? So it's a small program that starts up your computer and loads the main operating system, right? So think of it like the ignition system in a car, right? So I'm gonna go with Grub here. That's what you should probably go with as well, especially if you're doing dual boot. Grub is the, most widely supported bootloader that, works well with Windows, and you won't have any issues there if, the rest of your setup is correct. So after you select your bootloader, this window is going to pop up here. Welcome to the CachyOS installer. This program will ask you some questions and set up CachyOS on your computer, right? Really simple stuff. I'll guide you through it. First things first, obviously select your language. American English is fine. I speak English, so American English is fine, right? After that, just hit next. After you hit next, it's going to go on to the location tab here. You can keep track on the bottom. So again, really simple. What location are you at? Now, this data isn't forwarded onto CachyOS or anything, it's Linux, nothing's tracked. So if you want to pick whatever location, if the location that it finds is wrong, just, click wherever, right? For now, let's go, sure, Sao Paulo is perfectly fine. And yeah, so the numbers and dates locale will be set to Portuguese, Brazil. I actually don't want it to be Portuguese. Let's just make it in English. Yep, Chicago's good. We'll hit next. So after location comes the keyboard. Everything honestly should be set for you, right? English US default. If you want to test out your keyboard, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 blah. Test out the keys. Yes, everything works perfectly fine. Now there is this option right here called the switch keyboard option, right? This, you select a keybind that will help you switch keyboards between two different types of keyboards. If, that's something that you want to use. I won't be using that. I don't need it. I don't think most people use it. I don't know. Prove me wrong in the comments down below, I guess. But yeah, generic 105 key PC, 105 key PC. That should be good. After that, you hit next. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, is the partitions tab. There's a lot of information here, right? If you want the short of it, right? Say you want to erase your disk completely. I don't recommend this unless you have like a new disk that you're particularly trying to erase, right? What you're going to do is first select the storage device, right? This is a virtual machine, as I said earlier, so that's the only thing I could select here, but select the correct storage device and be sure it's the correct one. Then what you do is click erase disk, click on ext4, which is what I'm going to be using here. I recommend you use ext4 because the other partitions, they have their own quirks and whatnot. But for this tutorial and future videos that I'm going to make, it's important that you use ext4 because of applications such as Timeshift. Now, Timeshift is an app that takes snapshots of your system, and it works best with ext4. So that's where I'm going to go with there. And then, right, if you want to encrypt your system, I'll talk about it more in a little bit. Click that and then hit next, right? That's the short of it. However, right, say you want to create a manual partition. This is if you don't have a secondary storage device, right? Hopefully you already have, you know, some unused space in that disk or SSD, NVMe, whatever it is. Right, select that particular part, right, and then hit next, and you should be good. Now, I'm mainly going to be focusing on erasing the disk, right? The main thing I'm going to be telling you is if you are going to switch to Linux and you're serious about it, get a really cheap SSD, NVMe, even whatever it is, and then erase that disk and just install Linux on it. This way you're not going to have any issues between the Windows bootloader and Grub, right? So with that being said, let's actually get into these file systems here. Now, I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. Again, if you want the short of it, just hit ext4. It is the most common Linux file system and usually is the default for most Linux distros that I've looked at here. And then move on, right? So other than ext4, btrfs. Now this is the default that's selected. It is the most modern Linux file system, and it's got some quite neat features like snapshots, self-healing, and built-in RAID. Now, a big thing with snapshots is if you're going to, you know, follow my tutorial all the way to the end, I'm going to be using something called Timeshift, and Timeshift works best with ext4 from what I've seen and tested. So that's why I recommend just going with ext4. But if you want to try out, you know, btrfs, go ahead, be my guest. You're gonna have to do a bit more research. I might even make a video specifically for btrfs here. The rest, xfs, right? I'll just keep it short here. It's better for handling larger file systems, from what I understand. F2FS is mainly designed for SSDs and flash storage. It's optimized mainly to reduce wear and improve speed on flash memory. So if that's something you want to look at or, you know, try out, go ahead. And then the last one, ZFS. Now it has built-in RAID, snapshots, and it's also got something called data integrity checking and compression. Now, from what I understand, how that works is for every block of data, it creates a checksum, you know, and checks whether, you know, anything's been tampered with and whatnot. That's for like extremely paranoid people. Usually I'd recommend don't go with ZFX or ZFS. Just ext4 is fine. Now, it's always recommended to encrypt whatever data that you have for your own security, right? For this particular guide here, I am going to use encryption, right? I am going to use encryption, and if you don't want to, right, don't use it. It does get slightly annoying, but I've kind of gotten used to it, that you're gonna have to type in your encryption password, and then if you are gonna have a, you know, a password set up to specifically log into your user, that's also going to be a thing. So you're going to have to either remember 2 passwords or keep the same password. Obviously, it's recommended to have 2 different passwords, but for this purposes, I'm just going to keep it the same password. Let me just check I did it right. Yeah. All right, there you go. Right, so I've got my encryption set up. Lastly, the bootloader location. Just don't touch it, right? This is for, advanced users, and if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to mess it up. So I'm just gonna keep it at the default option, which is master boot record of VDA. Now this is gonna look different, right? Because I am on a virtual machine, but just keep it as the default, and then you hit next and move on. So ladies and gentlemen, the next tab is going to be the desktop tab. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, right? If you want, again, the short version of my explanations here, click on Plasma Desktop. I think, that's the best Windows looking desktop you can get, right? It's gonna be really familiar, or feel really familiar. Hit next and move on. Now, I want to split these to help you decide into 3 different categories. Now, the first one is going to be a full desktop environment, and those include Plasma Desktop, GNOME, which is also another great one, Cinnamon, which is over here. Cinnamon, it looks great if you've looked at Linux Mint at all. This is what they use, Cinnamon. Next up is Budgie. There it is, Budgie. Never used Budgie. I've heard decent things about it. And then the next one is Mate, right? Pretty good. This is also, this is going to overlap a little bit with the lightweight desktop environment, which is the next category here. Now, the lightweight desktop environments are, they're fast, they're simple, and they're great for older hardware. If you don't have, the latest bleeding edge or whatnot, I'd recommend you to look into some of these here. It'll give you a smoother experience overall. So LXDE is a great one. LXQT I have used. It's also okay, right? You won't have the best, all the bells and whistles and whatnot, but they are highly customizable to however you want to look or make it look like. So that's pretty good. And then the last one is OpenMux. Now, I also have personally never used OpenMux, so I can't really speak for it. But it's from what I understand, it's decent, right? Now the last one is tiling window managers, right? And the oldest one of them all is i3 window manager. I've used i3 and I've also used Hyperland. In my personal opinion, it's not worth it unless you're going to put in the time to keep everything looking nice and sharp and exactly how we want it to look, right? These are for people that, well, mainly coders, I think, from what I understand, right? It's really efficient. You use these window managers mainly with your keyboard, right? So you've got a bunch of different shortcuts and whatnot. So the grouping for this is, you've got i3, you've got Hyperland Neri, which I think is sort of the new kid on the block. And of course, if I look at my notes here, you've got Sway, you've got Qtile, and BSPWM. I've actually never heard of this one. This is a new one. But okay, that's essentially it, right? I don't recommend using tiling window managers unless you really want to get into it. It's erasing your desktop environment or whatnot. I've tried it. I tried to keep up, and personally for me, right, the best look and feel is Plasma Desktop, right? And this is how Plasma Desktop looks. This is what you're looking at right now, right? My screen, it looks exactly like Windows. You've got your little notification icons on the bottom right here, and then you've got everything on the left. This is how Windows is, or Windows 10 I should say was, and it's the best experience that you're gonna get. So click on Plasma Desktop, hit next, Hey guys, I'm just going to pause the install section real quick here and talk about something called Cosmic. Now, it's a desktop environment that I didn't talk about because I honestly completely forgot about it. But it's a really great desktop environment. The only thing is it's not fully there yet. It's still in development. One of the biggest things within Cosmic is it's protected against crashing, right? So Cosmic is built in Rust, a memory-safe programming language that excels in stability and security. You know, if this appeals to you, go ahead, try it out. But I have heard that specifically for playing video games, if that's your intent, then Cosmic is not really the best currently, right? It's still in development, as I said, so hopefully they push out patches and whatnot to make this, you know, as stable as it possibly can be. But yeah, with that in mind, use Cosmic at your own risk. Again, I'm not really going to be covering Cosmic anytime in the future. Maybe I will sometime when it's actually, you know, a viable desktop environment. But for now, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. We are on the additional packages side. Here, you don't need to do anything. As you can see, the ones that are checked are CachyOS packages, the shell configuration, base level plus common packages. Recommended, don't change unless you know what you're doing, right? You've got all of KDE desktop, all the packages for that. Scroll down here, CPU specific microcode update packages. Keep that on. Firefox and language packages, right? If you don't want to use Firefox and you want to use something like Brave, which is what I personally recommend, then I'll show you that in another video, but you know, keep everything as it is for now. If there's anything else, make sure to do your research and then, you know, look at what it's about. Accessibility tools, screen reader and mouse tweaks, right? For people with impaired vision. If you want to use a printer and whatnot, right? Click on this, printing support as well. But yeah, everything is, in my opinion, quite self-explanatory. Just take your time to read everything. All right. The next tab is going to be the users tab, and this is quite important, so pay attention. It's not really that, it's not a whole lot. It's just you're setting up a local user, right? So nothing's tied to the cloud or anything like that. Everything is local on your computer. So for your name, I'm just going to keep it as Cachy. What you want the computer to be named, right? If you want to change that, go ahead. For the password as well. There you go. Obviously set a password, and then log in automatically without asking for a password. I recommend don't check this even if you have encryption on. Just for safety purposes, safety and security purposes. Next up, use the same password for administrator account. I personally recommend just keep it on, right? If you're extremely cautious about your passwords and whatnot, you can set your own personal password, but I don't want to go through the hassle of doing all that. I already have an encryption password and a login password set up, so we're just going to check that. That's the default anyway, so that should be good there. After that, you hit next. This is where you look at all the little changes that you have done. If you followed through everything that I've said so far, honestly, you don't really have to read it, but it's always good to go through it, double check that, okay, you know, I haven't accidentally set my partition to overwrite anything on Windows or anything like that, right? So yeah, I'm looking at it here. Time zone is good, language is good, date and locale is good, keyboards as well. Partitions looking good. We chose the ext4 and everything is good. Yeah, we have Lux partitioning or Lux partition on boot or 2 boots. That's good. That means, you know, our encryption is set up. After that, we just hit the install button. Now, the CachyOS installer is about to make changes to your disk in order to install CachyOS. You will not be able to undo these changes. Make sure you're all good with that. And install now, and we will let this load. So after your CachyOS is done installing, you'll come up with, or you'll get this prompt. It says, all done, Cache has been installed on your computer. You may now restart into your new system or continue using CachyOS live environment. Yeah, there's really nothing else to do. Just check this checkmark button right here that says restart now. Hit done, and it should restart. So after everything is done, everything is initialized, the first thing you're gonna have to do is enter in your encryption password if you have set that up. Now, when you do type, it's not gonna show you that you're typing, but it does register the keys. You know, just hit enter, attempting to decrypt the master key. So we'll wait for it. Sometimes, depending on your system, it might take a bit, so make sure to be patient. But here we are, we're in Grub, right? Not much to do here. Obviously click on CachyOS Linux, everything will load. And there you go. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that should be it. Your CachyOS installation guide is complete. So in the next video, or in the next couple of guides, I want to be diving into like post-install setups, gaming, you know, work-related stuff. So yeah, stick around for that. But, you know, if you did find this video helpful, consider dropping a like, subscribing. Yeah, it really helps out, and, you know, helps me know that this is the kind of content that you guys want to see. But yeah, if you have any questions or, you know, suggestions even on what to cover next, leave a comment below. I'll try to read all of them, try to reply to all of them and whatnot. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.